Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live episode of To the Moon, Allison, where we talk about the top and trending works in speculative fiction, science fiction, fantasy, and romance. I am so excited to be joined today by cozy paranormal author Ada Bell. Ada, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, first off, everyone needs to know that we did not coordinate our outfits and chairs, but we do match. I mean, almost down to the glasses, and that's just because we're like on the same wavelength, or we're both possibly psychic because you do write psychic books. So
I could be.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and about, we're going to be talking about the Shady Grove Mystery series, but you have other stuff too that are written under this cozy mystery paranormal umbrella. I don't even know the right title. There's like 7 words that modify it. It's like cozy paranormal, possibly with romantic subplot. And then I don't know if the word coffee is actually in there, but it's implied with like cozy, I think.
I mean, coffee. A lot of cozies originally were about coffee shops or
they're like coffee killers or something like that.
Right, but so my genre is paranormal cozy mystery. I know Amazon's got like 40 categories you could tack onto that, like amateur sleuth in a series. But the official genre, I generally feel like the more words you need to explain your genre, the more confusing it gets.
That's true. But it is funny because I've talked to authors, especially indies, who write in these really narrow niches, and they're like, mine are shifters, but mine are like reptile shifters, and there isn't a proper category for that. And I'm like, well, there should be, because some people only want to read about the reptile shifters, and then like they lick their eye or something. So I'm not really sure how much that's like their own personal thing and how much that's an Amazon thing, but so long as readers find your books, that's what we want, right?
That's what they're under. Paranormal cozy mystery.
So the Ada Bell pen name is one of your pen names that's all the cozy mysteries. And I know that I got to read book number 7. And let me just say, I applaud you, because writing a book that is 7 in and that a new reader still totally followed, just like chef's kiss, because you had backstory in there, but it was layered in perfectly. And I knew what was going on. Although I have determined that by book 7, everybody has been accused of murder at some point in time, because, 7 other books, have these people. Some people have died probably along the line, but a lot of people have gotten accused of murder, and half the town is psychic. So what is going on with Shady Grove? What can you tell us about that?
So I've got a time loop story. So I think it's at one point almost everyone has died. So that was
all died.
And most people. There's one person I didn't kill, but I'm not going to say who it was.
You'll have to read to find out. Be like, which one of you didn't die?
So that was my entire goal when I was writing it, because the first books 1 through 6, there is the murder of the week, and then there's an overarching mystery Allie's trying to solve about her family. Her sister-in-law died mysteriously. There are no suspects. It's been 2 years. So she's like, hey, I'm psychic. I bet I can figure this out. So that's 6 books. And to me, that's like season 1 of the series, right? Like,
that's a good way of looking at it, yeah.
Well, book 7 is kind of like the first book of season 2. You can start the show here, but it's better to go back to the beginning.
Well, and I totally followed everything, and then it made me want to go back and go, okay, I want to see when it was that this character was dating that character. And I wanted to see how it was when these characters didn't like each other, because like there's a character who is one of her best friends now, and is like, I didn't like her at first, but I'm like, but she seems so nice. So I want to see them hate each other, because that's just the kind of thing that I really enjoy. So I love how you did that, and I love how you explained that way of looking at it, like a series arch, because I was trying to explain to my daughter, I mean, first off, she's 13, so she doesn't really understand a lot of these things, and then the reference I used made me feel about 100. I'm like, it's like Murder, She Wrote, so it's not really scary, so you're not going to be sitting there reading this with the light at night and going nail biting, keep me up at night, because it is that cozy feeling, but there are bodies piling up, so it's not just like, yay, people die. They do take that kind of seriously when there's just, murder.
I used to watch Murder, She Wrote with my mom, so I kind of get how you feel.
Well, and we also have been joking, because I don't know if you watch some of the stuff on all the different streaming services, and I want to say this one's Hulu, but I could be getting it wrong. It might be Netflix. There's a show, Death and Other Details, but we just keep calling it Murder, She Boat, because it's all on a cruise ship, and so we're like, yeah, let's go watch Murder, She Boat. But even my kid didn't watch the show. She's like, what are you talking about? The show is called Murder, She Boat. I'm like, it really isn't. Just, this is how we call things, because we like our title better than Death and Other Details. That one doesn't have anything
better title. I've actually not heard of this, but I'm going to go look it up, because the only thing I loved as much as Murder, She Wrote was The Love Boat. And in my mind, you have now put them together.
Well, and I've even had the privilege of talking to one of the original cast members of Love Boat, because one of them is now an author. So Tori Eldridge, fans out there, she's also been in Cats. She's a ninja, and she was one of like the dancer background girls who were running around and hanging out on the bar. So she now is a very successful author and is still way more limber than I would ever be. And she's older than I am. So I'm just like, can you tell me your secrets? And I guess the first one was be a ninja, and I'm not, so I'm never going to get there. But so what inspired the idea of doing this kind of cozy, paranormal, psychic murder mystery set in this little town that also has a college in it? I don't know how long the series, if it's season 1, if they were all set in college, or if it started when the main character, whose name, I love that this is her name, and I love that she did not change her name like her brother. Her name is Aluminum. And I realized her last name is Reynolds. And I'm like, you literally just named her Reynolds Wrap. She's aluminum foil. Do people point that out and go, Ada, what are you doing? Or they just go, yes, that's the best name ever.
And well, some other characters do point that out at times, but that's why she goes by a nickname.
Your name is aluminum foil.
Yes, it was her parents' favorite element.
It is. And you know what? I do have some issues with parents who get a little too precious with naming their children things, specifically because I have one dear friend from high school who named her child after a character from a book series that, first off, the series never finished. So that probably tips you off what series it is, because it's a popular series that hasn't finished. But they also made a show adaptation about it. And the character her child is named after goes a little bad. And I'm just like, well, she was all strong and leadery. Now she's kind of all murdery. Good job there. That's on your college resume. That's your name now, kid. So she changes it later. I won't blame her, but it's a very nice name. It isn't one of the elements, though. It's a character name that author made up, and my friend put on her kid.
So my friend and I were kind of brainstorming our series at the same time in the pandemic, when you couldn't go anywhere, and this is what you did all day, brainstorming new series. And we had like a whole talk about like how a running theme in a lot of these books is unusual names.
Yes.
We went through, like, we were searching for the weirdest one we could find, and it just kind of went down the rabbit hole. And then after all that, she named her main character Gwen, and I feel a little bit cheated there, because that's not weird at all.
That was not the agreement. I'm pretty sure you both, her name, unless it's short for like, not just Guinevere, but like Gwyneth, Gwendoline, Gwendolyn, like put them all together, like Gwendolyn 11th.
She just hung me out to dry on that, but at least Allie has, she's good natured about it.
She's good natured. She doesn't hold a grudge, and she wouldn't kill anybody over it, probably.
She's not gonna randomly call out her friend's book series on a show or anything.
She could. I mean, you haven't dropped the name, and it's not like Gwen is so unusual, because it's not so unusual that we would know who you're talking about.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So I started.
Gardner says it's a great name. Gwen, I don't think we were talking about you specifically, because for a human, it's an awesome name. In fact, I actually had a cat named Gwen. That's not the point. The point is, if we're going for the ridiculous names that we expect, like she could have at least named her like Scone or something that like Gwyneth Paltrow would have named her kids. Like that's less ridiculous than Gwyneth Paltrow names her kids. That one's
Gwen was on my baby name list, but then my kid decided to be a boy, and
I mean, you could have gotten away with it, boy named Sue style, but he may not have ever really liked that, and he's just like, no, thank you. But Gwen's okay with that. So Gwen, you can name your characters whatever you want to name them, just not Aluminum Reynolds, because that's taken. And then again, her brother changed his name back to something less ridiculous. I mean, guess he didn't have the inner metal.
He's a lawyer. He's a boring guy, which
like,
is not at all a dig at lawyers.
And I love that she's both science and psychic, instead of being like, oh, I'm all granola crunch, everything's holistic. She's like, no, I like science. And you also have, and this is one of the things I appreciated, because I'm assuming you laid them out and that all these characters were not introduced in the first book. Different people have different levels or ways that manifests. How did you come up with that? Like, what gave you the idea to do these kind of, like, you have this corner of power and you have this corner of power, and nobody's just sitting there Scarlet Witching everybody and, controlling the entire universe. Nobody's that powerful, which I appreciate.
Well, you haven't read the first 6 books.
Oh dear. Well, I mean, I know there's a time loop, so that does change a lot of universal things. But at least in this one, like, she has a nephew who finds things, and her brother is a lie detector, basically, and she has to touch things, which gave me Michael Curry vibes from the Anne Rice series Witching Hour, where he's like, I have to wear gloves because it gets so obnoxious. Hers, apparently, she can kind of control it or turn it off and on, and it has to have something really strong associated with it.
She's been working on it for a while. And in the beginning, she was like, whoa, psychics aren't real. What is happening to me?
She's like, no, clearly I'm having a psychotic episode, not a psychic episode. Totally different.
So a lot of the powers that other people have are things that I just like thought would be really useful. Like I couldn't find my car keys. And so every character can find things after I spent 3 days looking for my car keys.
Seriously, I could use that. We lose our Roku remote like 3 times a day, and it doesn't matter that we have the bright green strip thing on it that's supposed to help you find it, because then my kid puts it like in the refrigerator where I wasn't going to look for it, or under his bed covers. Like, again, wasn't going to look for it there either. But I also spent, like, you can probably tell my makeup's not quite right today because I couldn't find my blush brush, because I haven't had to wear makeup. I only wear makeup on the shows. If people see me in public, I just normal dumpster fire. It's fine. And I hadn't worn my makeup since our show for last week got postponed because our guest wasn't feeling well. So we're actually going live tomorrow. Got a double header this week. And I couldn't find my blush because my kid had used it for her show because she had to wear stage makeup where she's like putting it on like a magic marker. And then I didn't know what she did with. Well, she didn't use all of it. I just couldn't find the brush, and she just shoved it someplace it didn't belong. So if I had someone who was the locator, they could just help me find my way through, like finding my shoes every morning. My kid finding their shoes every morning, honestly.
How helpful would that be?
I'd like that. I'd like that a lot.
I think I was actually watching a political debate when I was thinking being a human lie detector would be nice.
That turned out to be false. Actually, everything you've both said, all false.
Well, no one has uttered the truth yet except the moderator gave his name earlier.
Exactly. Like the moderator who's telling time is like, yes, that is true. You have 5 minutes remaining. Yes. Everything else has just been complete nonsense. Good job there. Good job there. But so you have this new series that starts with, not new series, but new season. Like if we're doing these as a season that starts with the beginning here with this book, and I'm going to botch the name, but it's The Psychic's the Thing.
Yeah. It's a play on the Shakespeare line, the play's the thing.
The play's the thing. Exactly. And it's set in a play. And I love that you picked Much Ado About Nothing, because first off, that is my favorite Shakespeare play, mostly because it's the first one I saw. And I will admit that I didn't really understand when I first saw it when Shakespeare was alive, because I saw an adaptation where they set it in World War II, like right after World War II. Oh, wow. It took me a long time to know that Shakespeare was not around in World War II, because I'm like,
that's very confusing.
Well, I think I was maybe 10 or 11, and I'd gone to see a live Shakespeare in the Park kind of thing, and it was wonderful. But no one explained to me that this is something that they do now, where you can see Jesus Christ Superstar set to the Matrix. Didn't actually get originally written then, and the events taking place then, not the same. It's just a theatrical thing. But as far as I can tell, the one that Aluminum, Allie, as they call her, which I like, I'm just to clarify, anybody who calls me Allie, I will answer to it. I will not answer to Aluminum. Just
well, if you did, it'd be a little weird.
It would be weird, but I'm like, I will answer to any other metal, but not aluminum.
To call you Nickel.
I'll answer Nickel. I answered Penny. We actually know kids named Penny, so that would be kind of confusing if I answered that, because that would be copper.
Penny's a good name.
Penny, yeah. Penny's a cute name. But so you picked setting this with Much Ado About Nothing. Was there a reason you picked that one other than it had 2 female leads?
So I started with I was going through all of the tragedies because, but then this is supposed to be a funny book series, and it's a funny book series about death. So I don't know that I want to start with a tragedy to death. Like I cut that out. I went back
Titus Andronicus.
So I started over with comedies. Much Ado About Nothing is one of my favorite comedies.
Same.
I was leaning hard toward A Midsummer Night's Dream for a while. I know I took the title of the book from Hamlet, but I just couldn't make Hamlet work. I tried.
No, and again, because one of the things, and this isn't so much of a spoiler, but one of the main plot lines is there is some not so friendly rivalry between 2 female actresses. So you need something where you have 2 female roles, and Hamlet. No. Like, what are you doing there? Like,
one was Juliet and the other was like Rosalind. It's
like the nurse. Juliet or the nurse.
The nurse is a great role.
It's a great role, but again, you probably wouldn't even be casting women the same age for that, because the nurse is usually more matronly, someone who looks more like me, and not like a little Allie who's a happy to be an understudy. And I liked that you wrote a character who wasn't like, I must be the lead. She's like, I'm happy to just be over there. Is that possible?
She was there to support her friend.
Yes.
There's a whole, somebody actually invited her to be in the play in a different book in the Haunted Haven series because my characters move back and forth.
Oh, I love that.
And she was like, yeah, no, that's not happening.
No. So did she learn from this to not do it, or was that an earlier invitation that she turned down and just now she just gave up and said, fine, I will be in your play?
That was an earlier invitation. She was like, that's not me. I don't want to be up on the stage. And then her roommate is a theater major, so it didn't last long.
No, she's like, by the way, you're in this now. Grab you by the elbow and drag you along to the audition. Now, so do you have some kind of mythical map that shows us where Shady Grove is compared to these other cities that you have invented? Because they're not real, I don't think.
They're not real. I have an actual map. I'm looking at my walls. It's like, not hanging on my walls. I did have a map made. It's in the front of one of the books. It just kind of lays out the town, and then it shows. So Shady Grove is roughly an hour-ish north of Saratoga. It seems to fluctuate a bit depending on where
as they do.
And so then Willow Falls is to the west. That's where the Haunted Haven series is set. It's supposed to be about half an hour away. And then, Vermont, I think I've established is to the east because that's where Vermont is.
We just put it over there. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I don't know that I've ever mentioned Canada, but in my mind, it is still north.
You're like, I didn't take Canada away magically in the time loop, and in the time loop, we got rid of Canada.
No, we really like Canada. We just make Canada bigger. My husband's actually Canadian.
We're like, we're taking over all of Canada and just lowering the border. Takes the top row of states, all of New England. Bye. That'd be fun. So in that other series, that one has more witchcraft versus psychics. Is that, can you tell us a little bit about that one there?
It is. So the main character is Emma, and she found out she was a witch when she was in her 40s. She had tried spells and stuff in the past, and they never worked, and turned out she'd been cursed. So that's unfortunate. But the curse was lifted.
Am I cursed? Because I can't do spells either.
Well, you can lift the curse. So Emma is, I would say she's my ultimate wish fulfillment character.
I love that.
She's a thread witch. So her clothes iron themselves, and she can sew magically, and she also has hearth magic. So
that's really handy. What is hearth magic?
Her bed and breakfast is always clean. She doesn't have to do anything, right? Like this is, I was having like a bad day when I wrote this.
If I'm
tired doing chores,
it'll just reveal a tornado of stuff. I mean, if I turn the camera around just to see my husband's desk, because I work out in the living room area on a desk about like this big, that I'm back here because this is where the light is and I can plug directly into the internet. But if you looked around, you can see there was no hearth witch here and nothing automatically cleans itself. That is the wish fulfillment, and the very handy, more so than finding lost things. Because if everything's clean, you can find stuff. It doesn't go as missing if there's no place to hide it.
No, it doesn't. No.
So you have crossovers between these two, between the world of Allie and then the other one's Emma. Is that who's on your shirt?
Emma's cat is on my shirt.
Emma's cat. I love it.
Cat, pink. He's on the mug too. This is Emma's cat. So he's also magic, and he talks.
Is he also voiced by Nick Bakay, voice of Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch?
In my head he is, but don't tell him because I don't think we could get him.
Probably not. I mean, also, I don't know how old he is because that show came out when we were a little younger. Just saying, a little bit younger. I don't know how old Nick Bakay was when he was voicing the animatronic cat.
Probably an adult.
Probably a grown-up, yeah.
So in my earlier drafts, Pink was actually going to be an orange cat named Pink. But at some point, the Salem kind of crept into my head.
He's just like, do groom self. I'm here now. I'm your cat.
So they're introduced in a novella I wrote. It's Shady Grove book 3.5. It's an Allie book, but Emma is in it.
I love it. 3.5.
3.5. And then so there's crossover from that point on. Emma appears in book 4 to help with something. And then Allie is in a couple of Shady Grove characters show up in the third Haunted Haven book. So I used to be a really big Joss Whedon fan, so like in my head, it's like you're going up Buffy.
When Angel shows up and he's just here. Buffy shows up to say her cookies aren't done baking yet, and then goes back, or they can't get Sarah Michelle Gellar, so you just see blonde hair dancing in the back. That doesn't move like Sarah. I know her body language way too well. I knew exactly what you meant. What I wanted to be actually thankful for is that you didn't make him an orange cat, because then it would have been voiced by Chris Pratt, and nobody asked.
Oh, no.
So please don't Garfield that cat.
Antonio Banderas was an orange cat.
Oh, that's true. And then he sings. He's Puss in Boots, as we like to say in our house. He's Puss in Boots.
Yeah, I mean, that's one great cat.
That's the better cat. So if he was orange, we would have to have this written into the contract that he can only be voiced by Antonio Banderas, and I will happily take that one any day. But I love that you have it like that.
Old cat, so it would be okay that Antonio is not my age.
In my head, he's still like 35 and he's like Mask of Zorro forever. So
yeah, sure.
But I think that it's cool that you go back and forth between them and that they can be read standalone within the series, but then you've got this good entryway for the other one. But that's actually a good bridge. And now, of course, I have to wait till it goes down. So for those who are listening, you don't know what I'm pointing out when I say goes down. In our little ticker for your banner, Ada has so generously offered for viewers and listeners this week only 25% off any of her box sets of the Ada Bell box sets with the code to the moon, all one word. Pretend that's all one word. And that's 2 as in TO, not 2 as in I'm not like too legit to quit or any of that. So
you really are though.
I'm not legit at all. I'm not cool enough to be legit as anything. So just use that code. You'll see that here. And I'll make sure that when this goes up, I'll put it in the comments. Cause like right now it's airing on YouTube Live. I'll go and put it in the comment later to be like, go ahead. You can add that code, get the box set. And it sounds like, I know from my experience, I'm not the good judge of how fast something reads because I read more than a lot of people do. And people are like, don't you have other things to do? And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't do them. And then I also read pretty fast. Well, I mean, it is part of like, as an author, it's part of my job to read not just books in my own genre, but books in other genres to have a holistic approach. Because if you get really insular and you're like, this is just the way things are done, you miss out on a lot of great things. And also people who listen to my intro and went, what kind of nonsense is this where you're doing speculative fiction and romance? Welcome to my life, because that's what I do. So I already am kind of feet in multiple lanes, which is why I don't walk on water. I just kind of fall face first on the lane line as I'm trying to go across the pool. And I love actually getting to read both of those things. And I love weaving in a little bit of romance into sometimes my speculative, and sometimes my characters have no love at all, like other than maternal love or other things. But writing relationships is still something that you do, even if you aren't writing romance books. Absolutely. You do, though, have to stay in reality if you're writing contemporary romance when they aren't paranormal. But you got around that by putting paranormal stuff in there, and you can have people like touching car steering wheels and going, I know what happened in here. That is super helpful, personally. I wish I knew that and where my keys were, because I don't know any of these things. So you have book 7, which kind of starts this new era for aluminum's life. Right. Life of aluminum. But like I said at the very beginning, I love how you picked up these threads from earlier things and weave them in. And so I would recommend people get one of those box sets or 2 of the box sets, buzz through them. Because like I said, I read this one really fast and I was like, oh, I need to make sure that I read before I have Ada on the show. I probably could have read all of them. I didn't know how it would go by. But because I read for multiple shows and then for my own stuff, and theoretically I also am writing my books. I didn't write today.
Yeah, me too. Right now, actually.
I was supposed to be. Don't tell our agent, because she's probably watching right now and going, both of you get off the computer and go write your books. But the 7th was a great entry point. So I'm glad you let me know ahead of time that the 7th was a good way to stand in, because I know for my books, a lot of times I say like the first 2, it's a duology. You really should read those 2 together because they play off each other. Right. But books 3 and 4, they reference that, but they're more standalone and encapsulated. Book 5, which I'm currently writing, is a Shakespearean disaster and probably won't make sense if you didn't read the earlier ones, because I have too many points of view and they're all like fan favorites. So this one is more or less just fan service, but written by me going, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I literally am the cat on the keyboard, either an orange or a black cat, just keyboarding through this and going, this seemed like a good idea at the time. I feel like yours have to be more planned out than that because of murder, suspects, putting people and bodies and evidence where it needs to be. Does that mean that when you're writing these, are you one of those plotter people?
I really appreciate that you think that it is well planned out. Things were intentional. Because sometimes I'm going through and I'm like, oh wait, in book 2 this happened. Hold on. Now what do I do? Okay, that's So I have the craziest writing process of anyone I've ever met, and I tell people, and they literally cringe. So I just start writing.
Yeah, me too.
I start writing, and then I write until I run out of things to say, and then I'll just jump ahead to the next scene that makes sense in my head. So actually, book 9. I had like a random paragraph in the middle of a conversation I wanted them to have. That's it.
You're like, this is what I'm working on, and then we'll just fill around that, because then you do backfill, and I do have half-written chapters where I go, more should happen here, and I don't know what, but later on something will come to me, and I'll go, that's where that needs to go. Shove it over there.
So I use a lot of spreadsheets to do that. Once I'm done with moving things around and writing randomly 500 words here and there, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. It really is. That's okay. It comes together.
Like this.
So then I have a spreadsheet, and I go in and I put in every scene with like what happens and what I'm trying to do there. And then I look at it, and a lot of times, okay, well, this scene needs to go up here. This scene needs to go down here. This needs to go here. You just move it all around. Plotter is actually really good for that too, with the program. But I'm not a good plotter, so I actually use it to schedule my newsletters. Like, that's weirdly.
You're like, that works. And honestly, most people I know who have written things that require any kind of evidence or being able to go back and look at things to see clues, it's like, oh, well, I had to in order to do that. But I'm like, yeah, you really don't. You can just
stuff it back in.
Shove it back in. Exactly. No one's going to see the date stamp on when you shoved in that thing. And then if it's miraculously already there, then you're just like, yeah, I'm just a genius. And it made sense. And I have done that at times where I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And I had that there all along and I didn't even know it. And when I wrote it, I had no clue what I was doing. But then afterwards, I'm like, yeah, that was totally me thinking. Not really.
I'm rewriting chapter 6 right now of book 8 to add in a red herring.
The red herrings are the worst. Not as bad as Orange Cat's voice.
No, wait. I mean, it's not, though. It's a real clue. Because
like, but we have to put it in here earlier. Just stick it in there in the coffee shop or something. I also did like the name of some of the things, and I feel like beyond the names of the characters themselves, the cozy mystery highlight is the ridiculous names of the businesses and the places they patronize. I love how they called it Cinos is the coffee place, because it's got a lot of, like, it's chinos. They should just be calling them pants because they're like chino pants, because the H gets dropped. And I'm sitting there arguing with your book about how they would pronounce this molecule name before I'm even going, nobody would even name it that. That's the joke there, that they would have actually named it molecule.
They named it after the caffeine molecule.
Caffeine molecule.
Because they're nerds.
But those are the kind of things that when I'm writing, half the time I'll be looking up things like, okay, I need to name a French restaurant. And then I'm like, it's the Cat and the Frog, but in French. this is why I'm not, but I one of the few places I've been to that's an actual French restaurant, because I don't go to many, is English, but it's the Cat and the Custard Cup. I'm like, oh, I love that name. I'm not allowed to use that name. That place already exists, so I've got to make something else up. So I feel like that's where a lot of these authors are like, well, I can't use the real thing. So if I can't use the real thing, I'll go completely in the opposite direction and name it something no one would ever call anything. But then it makes me sad that in real life, we don't have places that are just named absurd stuff. Like, I want to patronize your most absurd place.
I did actually, I had to name a mechanic recently, and I went searching online, and I did actually borrow the name of my mechanic.
What's the name?
From Kind of a Big Wheel.
Instead of Kind of a Big Deal. Oh, yeah. I love it.
So the puns might be why I decided to start writing cozy mysteries. I like the titles. I actually, book 5, the whole thing stemmed from the title.
What's the title of book 5?
The Pie and the Scry. I was just trying to think up on puns.
And this scry. I think you're scrying stone. I don't actually know how to scry. Do people do this when they're scrying? Like,
well, Allie has a mirror, but everybody's different.
Everybody's doing something different. Like, I always feel when I think of scrying, it's either that or they've got the Palantir. Is that what they use in Lord of the Rings? With their like, gotta cover that thing up. It's looking at me, and that's how we feel when we have to cover up our computer cameras to hide that. Like, I'm putting my little wipey thing on there. Fun story. This is a relatively new computer because I keep breaking them. Don't break computer. And the second or third time I went to use my computer, I couldn't get the camera to work. And my husband can get it to work, and I had to end up doing it on, I think my husband's, I ended up using an external, which wasn't as good and makes me look all fishbowl-y, which is not fun. Take it into the Micro Center where I purchased it from, and the guy opens it up, flips the little tab, and he's like, yeah, you had the camera shutter cover. And I'm like, has a shutter cover? And I felt really stupid, but my husband, who is like a tech guy, also didn't know that some laptops now come with the little shutter covers, but nothing when it says like can't find can't find camera. Nothing says, hey, your shutter cover's on, you moron. Like, that's what I needed it to tell me. Like, hey, you got a shutter cover. I didn't know.
Yeah, well, I came in here and my computer was saying you don't have a camera. And I'm like, look, it's right there.
I see it. I'm pointing at my camera and the computer.
I had it. I actually tested it 20 minutes ago. I think when I was testing it, I don't know, maybe didn't realize that I had closed FaceTime. I don't know what it did, but it was convinced I had neither a microphone nor a camera. And as you can see, I have both.
You have both, but the camera doesn't care and the computer doesn't care. And quite frankly, I think maybe the next book you write should be set in a computer center and you kill off all the non-helpful employees. I'm just saying that's wish fulfillment for me.
I'm just going to make a quick note for book 10.
Saying, like, hold on.
Dedicated to Allison.
I already announced the coupon. That's one thing. Like, me remembering what I'm supposed to do. I also write down, like, next guest to announce, because I'll be like, that one with the cover with the thing. People are going to be like, this is not helpful. We are not able to look it up. But probably a librarian could, because I know librarians are used to hearing, like, that one with the red cover. And then they're like, I know which book you mean. Like, how do you possibly know which book I mean from the red cover?
They know everything.
I think they're psychic too. I think that's part of like their librarian program is they have to sit there and go, can you psychically discern what some random customer comes in asking about and then go, yes, I know exactly what book. And they just magically pull it out of the shelves. They are magic.
Take the book image right out of their brain.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, it's better than if you try to call into a radio station. I don't even know if radio stations exist anymore, but 30 years ago when they did, they do. When you want to like request a song and all you can remember is the chorus that just is like, oh. It's just the word "oh" a lot, but if I sing it, you'd know which one I mean. It is a perfect situation. It's actually a good song, but that's not the point. They would have to be like, oh yes, I know what song you're singing when someone's off key singing in the microphone, going, is this the one? Can you please play it for me? Because I'm singing it now, but all I remember is oh.
No one would ever be able to identify a song from me singing it.
Would it be like, nope, those were all the same note? You're like, but they weren't in my head. They were out loud, though. Well, maybe that's why you became an author instead of a singer, because no one cares if you're tone deaf while you're typing on the keys. It's totally okay. Like, your characters can sing and can be actors and can be like the lead in Beauty and the Beast or have to play the Beast. Okay, that was mean, by the way. That's not a spoiler, but that's like, did that happen in real life to somebody you know?
No, I don't think so. No, so my main characters cannot sing across the board. Every main character I've ever written cannot sing at all. And that's the little bit of me that I put into each book.
Like, none of you can sing. Ta-da!
There you go. You can't act either. Haha.
You're gonna be smart and you're gonna be clever and you're gonna get shit done, but we're not gonna sing while doing it because this is not that kind of show. There's no musical. It's fine.
I actually have a novella, the Christmas novella, where Allie gets dragged off a stage because she is trying to sing and dance.
That's just mean. Why is she trying to do? Is she drunk? Is this karaoke?
No, it was a favor for her mom.
Oh, that's nice though. She's like trying. She's trying really hard.
She did try. She said that she shouldn't. She said she sounded like Kermit the Frog, and her mom didn't agree. And
okay, but a lot of us like how Kermit sings. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, Rainbow Connection, that's quality music there.
That's true. That is a really good song.
OG Jim Henson, may he rest in peace. But I love that you have all these cozy elements so that something like somebody singing and getting dragged off stage still works, even though it's like, oh, by the way, you got dragged off stage and there was a body, because that's what happened. I mean, I don't know when it happened in the book, but you have people getting killed right and left, or at least right. I mean, you don't stack up bodies the way certain books where it's like every time you turn around, there's another corpse. Was that a deliberate choice to not make the body count too high, or is it just you'd run out of characters and you're like, I need a series here, so gotta leave some people standing?
I was a little afraid of running out of characters. I like a lot of my characters. So in the very first book, I was going to do like a second, and then I didn't want to kill anybody else. Right? Because you start, there's always, the person who dies is usually either completely unknown or not a nice person.
Yeah.
So when you're
all that sad.
Right. So when your only not nice person has already died, and then you're writing, you're like, wait, but I make up for it in the time loop book where everybody dies at least once, almost.
You bring them back. You're like, I'll kill you off differently next time. It's fine. It's like the episode of Supernatural where just dying and dying and dying, and it's fine. I mean, time loops are one of my favorite things. That like there are certain things I love in science fiction and like fantasy, these tropes that I, as a rational being, go, time travel and time loops cannot exist, and I will read them every single time and read the hell out of them because they're so fun.
Always. I will always go for the time loop book. Every time.
It's like, are we Groundhog Daying this? Let's Groundhog Day this some more. Like, how much more ridiculous can we get? And every time I'm happy.
I exercised restraint all the way to book 5, and then I needed to be allowed to have my Groundhog Day book.
Who was telling you had to exercise restraint? I'm sure the readers are like, take off the restraints. Go full force. This is good.
I think I was trying to be not too out there in the speculative parts. Paranormal is usually not like full on, Harry Potter, whole world, right? Different universe.
No. It's kind of a limited, I feel like paranormal is often like that gateway drug for people reading speculative fiction, because everything's like, well, this feels like reality with just a little bit of something that still feels kind of familiar. And we all grew up, at least our generation, watching I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, where everything's pretty much normal, and then someone's wiggling their nose and something flies across the room. We're like, that seems okay. But it's other than that, it's, Gladys Kravitz, the neighbors, like watching stuff going, that seems weird. But that's it. Everything else is pretty normal. So you went ahead and kept the reins on, and then you went ahead and did Everybody Can Die multiple times. But now with
really fit the story at that point.
You're like, it'll be fine. And then, so with the witches, how much more is that more extreme because it is witchcraft, or because it's a different series, you still had some of the same limitations early on?
It's a little different. It is the same series. It's connected. The towns are right next to each other, but it's like, everybody kind of knows that the witches live in Willow Falls.
And they're okay with that? No one's trying to murder them?
There are regular people too. There are also some people like the cook has cooking magic, and like her food, you can put her feelings into her food, which maybe I just really like Sarah Michelle Gellar too much as I say that. I don't know.
Like, I think that could work.
Is there too much there? I don't think so.
No, I'm good with it. Sarah Michelle Gellar, if you're watching, you are always welcome on this show, honestly.
Yes, and I love you, and if you want to play any of my characters, take your pick.
Yes, you can
play all of them at once. Actually, I would watch that. One-woman show.
One-woman show, playing all the characters, all the heroines, even some of the dead bodies. It's all good. We got the privilege of getting to talk to Christopher Golden, who does the Slayers audiobook, and getting to hear that, like, because Buffy isn't in them, I'm like, Sarah's not going to come on our show, is she?
Oh,
there's no reason for her to be on this show, but I'd like for her to come on. But he wrote it with Amber Benson, who played Tara, and getting to hear all these voices come back in kind of like a multiverse idea. I'm just like, I will just sit here and listen to James Marsters talk for 4 hours. Can I do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Fast forward to more James Marsters. Is that a button I'm allowed to push? And they said, no, that's not a button, and you won't get the story that way.
That's okay.
I had to cooperate because, I had to ask what actually happened in the book and not just James Marsters talking to me, because unhealthy fixation. Moving on, but that's fine.
Totally healthy. Totally
healthy and completely. And there was no time in law school when I tried to do like a dissertation explaining to my friends why Spike was better than Angel. And they're like, Allison, we're studying for finals. You can stop now. This is how I release my stress. Okay, this is what I do. And I think I just really aged myself by saying how long ago that was. But that's fine. Moving on. You are currently still writing. Are you writing both of the series still? Do you go flip back and forth between them, like travel between Shady Grove and Willow Falls, and just put on your witch hat and then your science hat, your psychic hat? I don't know what a psychic hat looks like.
The goal was to go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Like do like one each a year or something. But then when I did the psychics thing, like I got really excited with this is what happens. Right? So I got really excited and I got really sucked into the world. And I'm like, okay, well now I have to do book 8 because book 8 is going to be super fun. So I'm working, but I think after book 8, I'm going to try to go back to the other series. I want to do both. I want people, if some people only like one or the other, like I don't want anybody to be waiting forever for the next book.
So like, but I want to only read the ones about the witch stuff. Come back to the witch stuff. I'm addicted to the cat.
Like the cat talks, and there's a ghost in the witch. We didn't even get to the ghost.
There's a ghost.
The ghost. Yep. He haunts the bed and breakfast.
He's not a cat though, is he?
No.
Is this like Dennis in the Walls kind of thing? Sorry, that's another Angel reference. But did he die there? Is that why he's there?
No, he was also, because the magic runs in the family, so he was also a wizard, a witch, whatever. So he tied himself to the house so he could get to know his granddaughter, who he never met.
Oh, okay, I love that. That's like the nicest ghost thing to ever do. Be like, I want to just get to know my grandchild.
he's also like the happiest ghost I've ever met, and I'm not sure how that happened, but he is just delighted with everything.
I love that. I mean, I guess if you figure you only get so many years on this planet, and he's like, oh, but I got more, then he's happy about getting to have more and to get to know, like getting to know family members that you wouldn't get to know otherwise because your time had expired.
And he was stuck in his empty house with a cat for like 20 years. So now he's like, let's go places. So in book 4, Emma's taking him on a train ride.
Oh, I love it. He's like, I'm your carry-on luggage. You don't have to pay extra for me. It's fine. But I love that. So you're working on the follow-up to the psychic's the thing, but then you're going to come back because we need more ghosts and cats. Yeah. And there aren't any ghosts or cats in the psychic one. Like, I guess they aren't allowed in there. Like, too much science here. I'm sorry. We don't have any of that. What would a psychic have as a pet anyway? Like,
well, her nephew has a turtle named Mercury. He has a turtle?
I don't think I saw that. Was the turtle in this book? I don't remember a turtle.
No, Mercury is in book 4, and then I think there's a reference to him in book 6. And I definitely mentioned him in the Christmas novella I'm working on. So he's not like a main character. He is a turtle belonging to 5-year-old.
Can I talk you into writing like a children's series featuring the cat and the turtle? Because I would also. This is probably just because I've been working the book fair at my kids' school, so I'm like looking at all these books for kids, and I'm like, ooh, I want to read that. I have too many books on my plate. I do not need to be wandering through the Scholastic Book Fair, like putting things in my own thing. But I'm just saying, there's a market for cat and turtle books.
My son asked me to write a book with him in it, and I was like, well, I write about people dying, so no. I didn't say that. But like in my head, well, no, I don't want to actually write a book about you dying. So.
That's sad. We were like, we're not going to do that.
But, now I'm trying, got children's books going back there just to see. By the time I come up with one, he'll probably be 23.
He's like, Mom, this is no longer really what I'd like to be doing. It's okay. It's fine. I once wrote a middle grade fiction book and tried to read it to my own children, and they're like, go away, Mom. We don't even like you reading any books to us, let alone something you wrote. But they have read, because I have middle grade fiction friends, and they have read for them. So it's like, all right, you're sometimes useful. I'll let you stay. It's fine. Ada, it has been amazing getting to talk to you and about both of these series and what you can continue working on, whether you're in Willow Falls or Shady Grove or writing other stuff and continuing to write whatever you feel like doing, because honestly, you can do what you want. And hopefully we will see more books from you featuring the turtle and the cat and maybe the ghost. And that's maybe just my own special thing.
I'm working on it. I'll figure it out.
Can the turtle be voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar? Or is that such weird? Like, that is probably not.
Everyone can be voiced by Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yes. Or Antonio Banderas, so they can do that together. Have they ever worked together? Probably. At some point, they probably have. I don't know. Not back when it was like Swan's Crossing or whatever. Sorry, that was really.
I watched every episode of Swan's Crossing. It was
back when her hair was this color.
And actually, when I was in high school, when I was in college, we went back and found them all on VHS somewhere.
They had them on VHS. For people who don't know, Sarah Michelle Gellar was in a short-lived. This is like pre-Charmed and stuff. It was very teen weird drama. Was there a submarine?
It was like Saved by the Bell time.
It was Saved by the Bell time, but it was much more serious and dark, which is why I loved it. And then when I found out, because very randomly, I'm one of the few people who, when Buffy first came out as a TV show, I was like, that's not right. I've seen the movie. I was that person.
Me too. Me too.
Annoyingly, because my godfather's sister, yes, she did post-production work on the actual movie. And when the movie came out, I was like, that looks ridiculous. And then we went and visited her, and I saw the poster. I'm like, wait, you say it's actually a good movie? It's supposed to be cheesy? Oh, okay, I'll watch it.
And then I made all my friends watch it. I had ever seen at that point.
I loved it.
I would watch it with my best friend, and like we'd laugh so hard we'd fall on the floor. Like,
because Pike isn't a name; it's a fish. And then I'm like, wait a second, Christy Swanson and Luke Perry. What? They aren't in the show? What do you mean? I'm very confused by this. And then I came home from my first year of college because it was on like a season filler. I watched it over the summer, came back. My roommates all made fun of me, but by the end of the season, they're the ones who were crying when Angel dies. I'm like, okay, guys, I told you can't make fun of me and then cry later because now I'm making fun of you for crying. So
I was flipping through the channels one day, or I was going back when they used to actually scroll what was on TV. I was watching and I saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer and I was like, ooh, and an hour left. I'm like, cool, I missed the beginning, no big deal. I turn it on. I'm like, what is this? Who are these people?
What in the ever-loving hellmouth?
where's Luke Perry? What is going on here?
Where's Pee Wee Herman? And that's still the best death scene ever. May he rest in peace. But that death scene that goes on after the credits. Death scene ever.
So I turned it off. I was like, this is wrong. It's mislabeled, and I just turned it off. And then it was like a year later that my best friend was like, you need to watch this show. And I was like, I don't know. But I'm glad I trusted her.
I'm hesitant. I will watch it anyway. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go write some fan fiction. I'll be right back. But Ada, it's been amazing having you. I'm so excited to get to read more. Don't miss out on that coupon. It's only good for 1 week. So if you're watching this late delayed, get on it before it expires, because otherwise you're out of luck and you'll just have to buy it at full price. And for a box set, 25% off is pretty nice. So get on that code word to the moon, all squashed together, spelled out the way it should be, but without spaces. I will be joined by Nicholas Binge next time to talk about his book Ascension, which not about the TV show. So if you're thinking it's about the TV show, which I loved, it isn't. Is that why I put it on my TBR? Probably. It gets me every time. I also checked out a book called Severance. Was not about the TV show. Again, titles aren't copywritten, so people can use whatever. This is about climbing a mountain that doesn't belong there. So it's amazing. I highly recommend it. I had the audio. Go get that. I'll be back in June with that. But I'll also be back just tomorrow with Bless Your Heart with Lindy Ryan on Vox Vomitus. So thank you so much, Ada, for joining us.
Thank you.
Go check out that box set or all the box sets, because there's a couple of them, because there's a lot of books to catch up on. Don't miss out on the turtle novella that she hasn't written yet. We'll write it later. And we will see you next time. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe, because otherwise we don't keep like the most perfect schedule. So if you have us on YouTube, we'll just show up whenever we do. It works that way. Say bye.
Bye.